camera! My cousin Heather shouted, holding up her phone. The dining room was glowing under the warm chandelier light, the table packed with food, candles flickering, and everyone sitting shoulder to shoulder. But no one was looking at me with love. It was my birthday, yet I felt like a stranger in my own family's home. Before we begin, drop a comment and tell us where are you from and from which city you're watching our videos. And after watching the whole video, don't forget to tell us what would you do in this situation. Be honest. Tell me in the comments below. We read every comment. Let's begin. I stood there, holding the knife over the cake they'd bought. A small, lopsided thing pushed to the side like it was an afterthought, when my mother's voice cut through the chatter. "Well, don't get too excited," she said loudly enough for every aunt, uncle, and cousin to hear. "You're not getting a gift this year. You're a failure, remember?" The room went silent for a split second. Then a few people laughed. I felt my chest tighten, my ears burn. My mother, Donna, leaned back in her chair sipping her wine, a smug little smile tugging at the corner of her mouth. "You've done nothing with your life. Gifts are for people worth celebrating." Her words sliced through me harder than any insult from a stranger could have. This was my own mother. My hands shook slightly as I set the knife down. "You're seriously saying this? In front of everyone?" My voice cracked, not from weakness, but from the sheer weight of humiliation. "Why not?" Donna shrugged, taking another sip. "Maybe it'll motivate you to finally get your act together. Everyone here knows you've been coasting. No career, no real accomplishments, just wasting your time." I could feel my Uncle Peter smirking at the end of the table. My cousin whispered something to her boyfriend and snickered. I wanted to walk out, but I stood frozen, staring at my mother, trying to process how she could be so effortlessly cruel. "Mom," I said slowly, "you don't know the first thing about my life right now?" "Oh, please," she scoffed. "Don't act like you're secretly building some empire. You've got nothing, and everyone here knows it. You should be grateful I even invited you tonight." Something inside me snapped. Not in anger, but in clarity. I looked at each person at that table, memorizing their faces, their smirks, their whispers. If they wanted to believe I was nothing, fine. I cut a single slice of cake, set it on a plate, and slid it across the table. "Enjoy," I said quietly. Without another word, I turned and walked out. No one followed me. Outside, the winter air bit into my skin. My breath fogged in the night as I reached my car, an old Honda with a dent in the fender. My fingers trembled as I unlocked it, not from the cold, but from holding back the tears that wanted to fall. By the time I got home, my husband, Michael, was sitting on the couch in his suit, his tie loosened. He stood immediately. "You're early?" "What happened?" I told him everything. Every word, every laugh, every look. His jaw tightened. He didn't say a single curse or insult, but I saw it in his eyes. That silent, controlled fury he only showed when someone crossed a line. "Go get some sleep," he said calmly, almost too calmly. "Michael," I said, "go get some sleep." Something about his tone told me he wasn't done. Not even close. The next morning, my phone buzzed at 7 a.m. "Look outside," Michael's text read. I pulled back the curtains, and my heart almost stopped. Parked directly across my parents' driveway was Michael's jet black Rolls-Royce Phantom, gleaming like polished obsidian in the early light. He was leaning casually against it, wearing his tailored coat and dark sunglasses, as if he'd just stepped out of a magazine cover. From the window, I could already see my mother at the front door, robe half-tied, hair a mess, standing frozen in confusion. Michael glanced up, caught my eye, and smirked, the kind of smirk that promised this was only the beginning. The engine's low purr carried across the quiet street like a warning. Neighbors' blinds lifted. A jogger slowed, pretending to stretch while sneaking a look at the Rolls, the man in the coat, the woman stepping out of the front door in a robe she usually reserved for Christmas photos. Donna stopped on the porch and pinned her gaze on Michael as if she could peel him back with a look. "You can't park there," she snapped. "You're blocking our driveway." Michael glanced at the driveway, then at the curb. "I'm not parked," he said, voice easy. "I'm idling. I'll move in a minute." She blinked, thrown by how calm he was. "Then move now." I'd walked out by then, my coat over pajamas, hair in a loose knot, throat still tender from the words I swallowed last night. Michael opened the passenger door and held out his hand. I stepped to him, and he didn't even look at Donna as he threaded his fingers through mine. He looked only at me. "You ready?" he asked, like we were about to walk into something we'd planned together. "For what?" I asked. He smiled. A quiet, controlled smile I'd come to recognize over the years. The one he wore when he'd already done the homework and set the chessboard. "For the conversation you shouldn't have to have, but we're going to have it, on your terms." My father, Mark, came out behind Donna, tugging at the belt of his robe, eyes scanning the car like price tags were floating around it. "What is this?" he demanded. "Some kind of stunt?" Michael finally turned to them. "Number this is respect. It's also clarity." Donna scoffed. "Respect? You showed up at dawn to brag about a car." "Bragging," Michael said evenly, "is what you did last night. You held court and humiliated your daughter on her birthday. I'm here to make sure that never happens again." Her laugh was sharp and short. "Oh, please. She's sensitive. She always has been." "Sensitive," I said, my voice surprising me with its steadiness, "is not the same as being treated like trash by your own mother." Donna's face twitched, one of those small, involuntary flashes of real emotion that slips free when you're certain you're still wearing the mask. "Watch your tone." Michael's hand squeezed mine before I could answer. "She's going to speak however she needs to," he said, "and you're going to listen. For once." The front door creaked, and my sister Brianna slid out, phone already up, recording. "This is wild," she whispered to no one, angling for the best shot. "The comments are going to eat this up." Michael looked at her like she was a child holding scissors and didn't know they were sharp. "If you post that, you'll be posting a legal notice too," he said politely. "You don't have consent." Brianna dropped the phone an inch, eyes darting to Donna for a cue. Donna's chin flared. "You don't scare us." Michael shrugged. "I'm not here to scare anyone. I'm here to make something very simple, very public, so there's no confusion later." He turned to me. "Ava, do you want to do this on the porch or inside?" "Inside." The word hit my tongue and went still. That house still smelled like lemon cleaner and the old rug in the den that had outlasted 3 sofas. It also held the version of me that never raised her voice and let herself be rewritten at every family gathering. "Porch is fine," I said. My breath fogged the air and disappeared. "They like an audience anyway." Michael nodded and slid his other hand into his coat. He pulled out a small velvet box, the kind that could hold a ring but didn't, and a thick manila folder with a tab. The jogger had drifted across the street now, pretending to rifle with a shoelace. A neighbor in a quilted vest paused on her stoop with a bag of trash. Our family was a show, and the block had front row seats. Donna's attention flicked to the velvet box. "There it is," she said, mouth twisting. "Flaunting money." "This," Michael said, lifting the box, "is a gift for my wife that she didn't need to earn, justify, or beg for. It's a symbol, something to wear until the sound of the word failure washes out of her bones." He opened it. A delicate gold chain rested inside, a small disc charm catching the winter light. "I don't need jewelry to feel better," I whispered to him, the words barely leaving my lips. "I know." He turned the charm so it flashed toward me alone. Engraved across the disc, "You are not what they say." "It's not for better," he said. "It's for remembering." Donna tried to cut in. "Are we done? Because this is..." Michael raised the folder. "This is why I'm actually here." Mark's eyes snapped to it like it was a subpoena. Brianna leaned forward. I felt my heartbeat drop lower, steadying, as if my body was bracing for impact. Michael opened the folder and revealed a stack of printed emails, screenshots, and copies of receipts. "Last night you told Ava she was a failure," he said, flipping the first page to show an email. "You mentioned she had no career and no accomplishments. Here's a signed contract from the retail brand that hired her to redesign their regional training program last month. The two of you didn't know about it because she didn't feel like explaining her life to people who treat her like entertainment." Donna snorted. "So, one contract," he flipped another page, "and a retainer agreement from a nonprofit, Women Reentering the Workforce, where Ava leads interview prep on Saturdays. They had to twist her arm to accept a stipend because she wanted the funds to go back to the program." He flipped again. "Here's a letter, unsolicited, inviting her to speak at a small business incubator downtown in 3 weeks. They reached out after she helped one of their fellows rewrite a pitch deck in a coffee shop. The porch boards were so quiet I could hear my own pulse in my ears. Donna's lips parted, then flattened. Brianna's phone slid back up by an inch. "And this," Michael continued, placing a photocopy on the porch rail so they could see it, "is a receipt for the birthday cake you bought her at 8:46 p.m., after most of the guests had already arrived. An afterthought." He didn't look at her when he said it. He looked at me. Donna's face flushed. "You went through our finances?" "No," Michael said. "The bakery owner is a friend of mine. Small business owners talk." Mark finally spoke, low and tight. "Is there a point? Or are you just stacking papers to feel tall?" Michael slid the papers back into the folder. "The point is simple. You don't know your daughter. You didn't ask. You performed superiority for a room, and you called it love." Donna's laugh cracked. "And what are you, her hero? You sweep in with your rich man car, and the whole block applauds." Michael let the jab pass. "I'm her partner, and I'm done watching her bleed for people who treat cruelty as tradition." He looked to me again. "Ava, you ready for the part that's actually for you?" I hadn't realized I'd been holding my breath. "Yes." He took out a second document, thicker, bound with a simple black clip, and handed it to me. The cover page read, "Lease agreement." My name was at the top, a downtown address under it, and the words, "Suite 4B, Collins Consulting." "What is this?" I whispered, turning the first page with fingers that had turned suddenly clumsy. "It's yours," Michael said softly, and the soft was not performative. "We found the space 2 weeks ago. It's month to month for now, until you want longer. It's quiet, sunlit, and 3 blocks from the transit line. Your clients don't need to meet you at coffee shops anymore. You'll have a door with your name on it, and a small conference table, and a plant you'll inevitably forget to water." I stared at him, eyes burning for a different reason now. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I wanted you to be able to walk away from last night with more than a wound." His mouth tilted, just a little. "And because it's fun to give you a gift on your actual birthday, not the day after, but your mother stole the night." The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was dense, charged, a sound like pressure releasing from a valve. The jogger stood fully still now. The neighbor with the trash bag hadn't moved. Even Brianna lowered her phone. Donna stepped forward, found her balance, and chose attack. "Elise, that's what this is? Throwing money at her so she can play businesswoman? When she fails, and she will, you'll blame us?" I closed the folder. The edge of the paper pressed a tender line across my palm. "I'm not going to fail," I said, and the sentence didn't feel like something I was trying on. It fit. "Save the speeches," Donna snapped. "You show up at our house at dawn, block our driveway, make a scene?" Michael clicked the key fob, and the rolls eased back a few feet into the street, clear of the driveway, as if to disarm her favorite complaint. "Scene's over," he said. "We're moving on to the terms." "What terms?" Mark asked warily. Michael's gaze sharpened, the way it does when he's about to walk through a plan line by line. "Boundaries." He counted on his fingers, not dramatic, just meticulous. 1. No more public humiliation, not at birthdays, dinners, reunions, holidays. If you have feedback for Ava, you give it privately and respectfully, or you keep it. Donna's laugh was a saw. "You can't dictate how we talk in our own home." 2. Michael continued, untouched by the interruption. "No filming her without consent. If a phone comes out to turn her into content, we leave." 3. If you use the word failure again, that's a 6-month pause on contact. Minimum. "Are you out of your mind?" Mark said, heat rising. "We're her family." "And families get boundaries or they get distance," Michael replied. "Choose." Brianna rolled her eyes. "This is ridiculous." I turned to her. "Is it?" I asked. "Or is it new?" "Because new feels ridiculous when the old way depended on me being quiet." She opened her mouth, closed it, looked at Donna, and found no rope to grab. Donna's face smoothed into something that looked like pity if you didn't know her tells. "He's changed you," she said to me, as if it were a diagnosis. "He's filled your head with ideas." "I had ideas before I had him," I said, voice low. "I just stopped sharing them with people who were eager to step on them." The sound of a truck rounded the corner. Gears, diesel, a rattle like stacks of metal. Everyone turned. A white box truck rolled up and slowed at the curb. Blue lettering on the side read, "BAYHARBORSTOR, Ageandmoving. Donna stiffened. What is that? Michael checked his watch. On time. My stomach flipped. What did you? He nodded toward the truck. They're delivering your boxes. The ones your mother accidentally dumped at storage last fall when she didn't have space. He looked at Donna. We paid the fees and scheduled the release. It's her property. She'll decide what to keep and what to toss. The color drained from Donna's face. Those were clutter. Yearbooks are not clutter, I said, the memory hitting so hard I could feel the texture of the pages. Neither are the notebooks I kept from coaching interviews. Neither is the quilt Grandma made me. Brianna's eyes darted between us. You told me the storage unit lost the lock code, she said to Donna, confusion cracking through her snide composure. Donna didn't answer. The moving crew hopped down and started opening the back door of the truck. The metal roll-up clattered skyward, and I saw boxes I recognized instantly. My handwriting slanted along the sides in thick black marker. A box labeled AVA Dash Books slid forward. Another AVA Photos. Another AVA Grandma Quilt. Something inside me, something small and hard that I'd wrapped in too many layers, broke open. Not like a dam, not violent. More like a tight knot finally loosening under warm fingers. Where do you want them? The foreman called. I looked at the porch. I looked at the street. I looked at my parents' faces, Donna's lips pinched, Mark's eyes swimming with calculations, Brianna's uncertainty cascading. And then I looked at Michael, who was not watching the show. He was watching me. Not here, I said, voice steady. We're done storing pieces of me in a place that treats me like a visitor. Michael gave the foreman an address. The new address. Suite 4B. The crew nodded, slid the door down, and climbed back into the cab. Donna took one step forward and pointed at the folder in my hand like it was contraband. You think you're better than us now? I held her gaze without blinking. No, I said. I think I'm better than who you trained me to be. For a heartbeat, no one spoke. The morning felt brighter, not because the sun had risen higher, but because I'd stopped standing in my own shadow. Michael unclasped the gold chain and lifted it, motioning for me to turn. I did. His fingers were warm against the back of my neck. The disc fell against my collarbone with a soft kiss of metal on skin. It wasn't heavy, but it felt like armor. Donna opened her mouth with one more line, one more swing. Then the doorbell inside their house chimed loudly, cutting her. Off. All four of us turned toward the sound. Who is that? Mark muttered, frowning. Michael's eyes flicked toward the door, that small smile returning for just a second. That, he said, is the next thing. And before anyone could move, the door opened from the inside and a familiar face stepped into the foyer. Someone from last night who hadn't laughed, who'd slipped me a napkin with a phone number and a quiet, call me if you ever need a witness. She looked from me to my parents and back, then lifted a plain envelope with my name written across the front in a neat, careful hand. I figured I should bring this in person, she said. It's about your grandmother, and a letter she left that no one seems to have mentioned. The air shifted instantly. Donna's eyes narrowed at the sight of the envelope, while Mark's jaw flexed like he already knew what was inside and wished it would vanish. I stepped forward slowly. A letter from Grandma? My voice was careful, almost cautious. The woman, Mrs. Keller, Grandma's longtime neighbor, nodded. She gave it to me before she passed, told me not to hand it over until you were ready. Her gaze flicked toward Donna. And she was very clear it was for you, Ava. Only you. Donna let out a sharp laugh. Oh, for heaven's sake. My mother didn't have any secrets from me. Mrs. Keller's brow arched. Then you won't mind if I hand this directly to her. She stepped off the porch and placed the envelope in my hands. My fingers tingled. The paper felt heavier than it looked. What's in it? Brianna asked, leaning in. I'm about to find out. I tore the flap open, pulling out a single folded sheet of cream stationery in Grandma's familiar cursive. The smell of her lavender hand lotion hit me like a memory. I began to read aloud, my voice trembling at first but growing steadier with each line. My dearest Ava, if you are reading this, it means you've seen enough to know your worth and to fight for it. I have left something for you, something I could not entrust to anyone else. In my safety deposit box at Bay First Bank, you will find the deed to my lakefront cabin and a small savings account in your name. I want you to have a place where you can breathe, create, and feel loved. Do not let anyone tell you that you are undeserving. You are my pride, my joy, and my legacy. My breath caught. The cabin. The place I'd spent summers as a child, fishing off the dock and painting in the loft. I hadn't been there in years. Donna had decided it was too much upkeep. Mark stepped forward. That cabin was supposed to be sold. We all agreed. No, I cut in sharply. You decided, and Grandma clearly didn't trust you with it. Donna's face flushed. That's ridiculous. She would never— She did, Mrs. Keller said flatly. I was there when she signed the paperwork. She said you'd probably try to get your hands on it, and she wanted to make sure you couldn't. Michael rested a hand on my shoulder, his voice calm but edged with steel. So now we understand why this letter wasn't mentioned until today. Brianna's eyes darted between all of us, her earlier smugness replaced with unease. Is that a lot of money? I looked at her, then at my parents. It's not about the money. It's about the fact that she saw me for who I am, even when you didn't. Donna opened her mouth again, but Michael stepped in. Conversation's over. Ava's leaving with her property, her dignity, and her boundaries intact. If you want a relationship, it starts with respect. Otherwise, it doesn't start at all. I tucked the letter back into the envelope and held it close, a quiet smile breaking through. For the first time in years, I wasn't just surviving in front of them. I was winning. And from the look on Donna's face, she knew it too. The road to the cabin felt like driving through a memory. Pine trees arched overhead, their branches swaying in the crisp winter wind. The sun broke through in shards, casting light on the winding asphalt. I kept Grandma's letter in my lap the whole way, tracing the indentations of her handwriting with my thumb. Michael drove in silence, his hand resting over mine. You ready for whatever we find? He asked quietly. I nodded, though the truth was my heart was pounding. I want to see it before anyone else tries to take it from me. When we pulled up, my breath caught. The cabin looked almost exactly as I remembered. Weathered cedar siding, green shutters, and the old porch swing that still swayed gently in the wind. The lake behind it shimmered in the afternoon light, frozen at the edges. Inside, dust motes floated in the sunlight spilling through the windows. The air smelled faintly of cedar and Grandma's lavender soap. I touched the kitchen counter where she used to roll out biscuit dough, the bookshelf still packed with worn paperbacks and family photo albums. Looks like no one's been here since she left it, Michael said, scanning the room. I moved toward the small writing desk in the corner. On top sat a small brass key and an envelope marked, "For Ava, open alone." I froze. Michael saw my expression and stepped back. "I'll check the porch," he said, giving me privacy. With shaking fingers, I slid the envelope open. Inside was a single note. If you're reading this, you've found the place where my true will begins. There is more than what's in the bank. Look under the loose floorboard by the fireplace. And trust yourself, Ava. You've always had the strength. Now you have the freedom. My pulse quickened. I hurried to the fireplace, knelt down, and tapped the boards until I found it. A hollow thud. I pried it up, revealing a small wooden box inside. Inside the box was a stack of neatly bundled cash, an old silver locket with a photo of Grandma and me, inside, and a sealed document. The title read, Amendment to Last Will and Testament. The amendment was dated just 2 months before she passed. It stated in clear legal terms that in addition to the cabin and savings account, I was the sole beneficiary of a sizable trust fund, one my parents had apparently never known existed. A sound outside snapped me out of my trance, tires crunching on gravel. Michael stepped in quickly. "We've got company," he said, his jaw tightening. I looked past him through the window and saw my parents' SUV pulling up, dust swirling in its wake. Of course, they followed us. This was about to turn into a confrontation I hadn't planned for, but one I was more than ready to have. The SUV barely stopped before Donna jumped out, slamming the door hard enough to echo across the lake. Mark followed, his face already set in that cold, calculating glare I knew too well. "You had no right to come here without us," Donna barked, marching toward the porch. "This property is part of the family estate." I stepped outside before she could set foot inside the cabin. "It's not yours," I said evenly. Grandma made that very clear. Mark held up a hand like he was the voice of reason. "Ava, we just need to review the documents together. If you hand them over now, we can make sure things are fair." "Fair?" My voice sharpened. You mean like last night when you laughed at me in front of everyone? Or like when you stored my belongings and almost had them auctioned off? Donna folded her arms, her eyes flicking toward the box in my hand. We don't need to drag up old grievances. This is about assets. And frankly, you're not equipped to manage this place or whatever money she left you. Michael stepped forward, his tone calm but lethal. She's more than equipped, and any conversation about ownership ended the moment this document was signed. He held up the amended will, the legal seal catching the sunlight. Donna's face went pale. That's forged. Careful, Michael said quietly. False accusations about a legal document could end very badly for you. I opened the locket, showing her the tiny photo of Grandma and me. She wanted me to have a place where I could be free from you. And I'm going to honor that. Mark's voice dropped, low and bitter. You think cutting us out makes you stronger? You'll regret this when you realize family is all you have. I took a step closer until we were eye to eye. Family is who shows up for you, not who tears you down. I'm done mistaking blood for love. Donna's jaw tightened, but for the first time, she didn't have a retort. She turned toward the SUV, muttering something to Mark. Michael's hand found mine. Let's go inside, he said, leading me back toward the cabin. Before stepping in, I looked over my shoulder one last time. My parents stood by their SUV, both wearing the same expression, realizing, maybe for the first time, that their control over me was gone. The cabin door closed behind me, and I felt it, like the air inside was lighter. The lake stretched out beyond the windows, calm and still, reflecting a sky that looked wider than it ever had before. I wasn't just